Hello everyone and welcome to the 404 Games Not Found First Look series. I'm Verlaine, I'm here with Lunch Money and Sendude, and this is Dayz. It's an early alpha release, you can pick this up and try it in Steam as of this point, so go ahead and do that if you like the look of this review. A lot of our channel is Dayz content, so we're going to try and give this review in what we think is a fair and unbiased way. I'm going to throw this one over to Sendude, who's going to kick this off with character creation and the inventory screen.
Hello, I'm Sendude. I'm going to talk about some of the aspects I found most interesting in the Dayz standalone. I'm going to start with the character creation, which follows many of the forerunners in the zombie horror survival genre. It's simple, with currently quite a limited amount of selectable options, skin tone and a basic array of clothes being all you really have to work with. However, this being like an early alpha release of the game, I'm hoping to see a greater variety of options added to help create and refine a more individual and personal experience. That being said, the interface itself and the way that the buttons are is very responsive and it is easy to use. And so although there is only a limited amount of options, it does do a good job of creating quite a good and personal connection to your character. The inventory screen is one of my personal favourite additions. It's really sleek, it's really responsive, it shows off all the important information really quite effectively. The new feature which allows you to drag and drop like different items and equipment on and off your character is such a great improvement over the predecessor games, clunky and at times confusing inventory screens, and that alone I think really deserves a merit. There are a couple of technical aspects such as server-side lag and other alpha glitches that sometimes make the inventory interface feel a little unresponsive. But this is more of a nitpick than a true criticism, as the inventory is probably the best of the current zombie survival horror genre in my personal opinion.
So, moving away from inventory and interface, the food and drink and general health is no longer signalled by little indicators on the screen. Instead, your character lets you know by bringing up a message informing you of how you're feeling. This, in principle, is a nice feature. It offers more of the screen to you, and it's less distracting. However, your character also appears to have no knowledge of their own bodily functions. After using my tin opener to desperately pry open a can of spaghetti and munching the whole can, I was informed that my hunger is satisfied. And after 3 steps, I was then told, I'm very hungry. My head hurts. I'm thirsty. I feel faint. I'm exhausted. My stomach grumbled violently, and I began to feel like I downloaded and installed Complaint Simulator 2013. However, as the game is in alpha, I deduced that my character isn't actually entirely sure of its own needs and wants, and I concluded that checking the inventory screen, where your needs are highlighted from green to red based on the seriousness of the situation, was in fact the best way to go forward. When you're surviving in Dayz, you should be aware of your hunger, your thirst, your fatigue caused by running, infection and injury, all with varying different ways to cure and solve, and each having varied methods of success based on the quality of the item used and the item itself. It gives a lot to think about, and although not 100% there yet, it's already a leap and a bound ahead on the survival on the mod. I'm going to throw this over now to Lunch Money, who's going to talk to you about clothing and the world itself.
As we've come into the standalone, the clothes we are wearing are much more important, and the ability to mix and match clothes creates a new dynamic in the game. With varying pocket sizes and carry capacities, this has become a fantastic feature. It gives players a clear choice between, say, a slightly damaged pair of combat pants with more pockets, or a completely undamaged pair of jeans in, say, your favourite colour. Combine this with the ability to store more in a backpack that you had to find as opposed to the free one you would have been given in the mod, and suddenly the clothes in your body become integral to the gameplay in a way that just wasn't there before. I think this is a fantastic feature that's been added. One of the largest changes to the standalone comes from the ability to explore more of your surroundings. With this release, we can now go into nearly all the buildings on the map, which creates a fresh feel to a world that, let's face it, the majority will already know quite well. I found myself stopping in towns that I would have normally run past in the mod to explore new buildings. And at present this does mean it takes me about 5 times longer to move from town to town, but it has returned a feeling of exploration to the game. Cities in particular are now much more impressive. Travelling for a hospital at night, for example, only to discover you're not the only person in there, creates a real sense of suspense and fear that I'd forgotten from the Dayz franchise. Couple this with the way most items are now found, and it creates a truly immersive gameplay experience. And I find myself rushing to kitchens in houses in the hope of finding food, as opposed to just looking through all the rooms for those telltale piles on the floor. As expected from a game in such an early alpha, I have encountered occasions where I find loot that I just can't reach, it glitches through the wall, stuff like that, but I find that that really doesn't bother me too much, as there's always so much more to explore.
Okay, let's move away and talk about the combat. It's kind of hit and miss, if you pardon the pun. Guns are a lot rarer than they are in the mod, and the weapon you're most likely to find is some kind of melee tool, or a bat, or even an axe. This to me has pros and cons. I do like how you can hold different kinds of weapon, they do different damage, they work at different ranges, and I even like how melee has moved into a more accessible spotlight. However, the combat still feels very similar to the mod. It's often unclear if you've even hit your target. Your screwdriver will sound like a rifle when it hits the wall, and with no damage indicators, it's difficult to tell if you're even damaging the zombie at all. If you do manage to find a gun, a nice feature that's come forward with the standalone is the ability to customize it with scopes and barrels that suit how you want to use it. Some scopes zoom in, some provide a red dot sight, with things such as night vision and thermal planned for release later. The weapon customization really helps bring an element of being unique and gives you the ability to craft your survival experience around yourself. I will say again, it's still in very early alpha, and to feel like the mod at this point is actually an achievement, not a detriment. The game flows nicely. It feels like a zombie survival game and does a really good job of shrugging off doubts people may have had about it. It is a lot harder with more things to consider. Zombies are already more intelligent and they can follow you inside buildings without losing their speed. Customizing your character works brilliantly and the loot system is set to be fantastic. If I had any criticisms, it would be that the game still shares too many negative aspects of the mod. For example, the melee still feels clumsy, the interface is confusing at first, and the controls are a bit ambiguous. It's still very brutal to new players, however, my opinion is that the game is set on a path towards brilliance. If you're a fan of Dayz and you like the mod, you will enjoy the standalone, even in the alpha. If you're on the fence and you came to this review to decide if you buy the game or not, my best advice to you in all honesty is just wait a few weeks. Alphas exist so players can give feedback on things that need changing urgently. After a few patches, the game will be in a much more playable and enjoyable state, so I suggest looking into it then. Thank you very much for watching this review. We're also planning to do some Enjoy the Little Things that the standalone has given us ideas for, as well as potential plans for Infection and a few other ideas relating to the game, so if you like our Dayz stuff and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead, click the subscribe button so you don't miss out. From everyone here at 404 Games Not Found, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in game.